Let's talk about a type of person who is deeply, profoundly misunderstood in our loud, hypersocial world. I'm talking about the person who feels a quiet, genuine sense of relief when their Friday night plans get canceled. I'm talking about the person who, after a long day of meetings, classes, or social gatherings, doesn't just feel tired, but feels drained, like their very life force has been siphoned away. The only cure is to be completely and totally alone. I'm talking about the person who can go to a party and have a good time, but their favorite part is the car ride home alone with their music, or the feeling of closing their front door, locking it, and finally exhaling. Our society has a lot of labels for this person. We call them loners. We call them antisocial, weird, stuck up, or broken. We pathologize them. We assume they're deeply, secretly lonely, or that they suffer from social anxiety, but that they're just depressed. And while those things can be true, what if, for many of these people, that preference for solitude is not a symptom of something broken? What if it is a sign of something deep, healthy, and powerful? What if the preference for being alone is not a fear of others, but a love for oneself? What if it's not a weakness of character, but a strength of mind? Today, we're going to explore the psychology of people who genuinely prefer to be alone. We are not talking about the pain of loneliness. We are talking about the choice of solitude. We will unpack the myths, and then we will dive into the deep psychological reasons why some of the most sensitive, creative, and authentic people you will ever meet are the ones who need to be alone the most. We'll explore the masks we wear, the call of our inner self, the science of our brains, and even the historical power of the sage or hermit. Finally, we'll give you a practical guide for how to honor this need without isolating yourself. This is a deep validation for anyone who has ever felt guilty for just wanting to be alone. Part 1. The Great Misunderstanding: Solitude versus Loneliness. Before we go any further, we have to tear down the biggest myth. We have to draw a hard, bright line between two words that our culture constantly confuses: loneliness and solitude. Loneliness is a pain. It is a state of involuntary disconnection. It's a craving for connection that is not being met. It's a negative, draining, and distressing feeling. It's the feeling of being at a party and feeling like no one sees the real you. It's a feeling of lacking. Solitude, on the other hand, is a choice. It is a state of voluntary connection with oneself. It is a positive, nourishing, and restorative experience. It's the feeling of being alone in a room and feeling completely, totally full. It's a feeling of presence. The person who prefers to be alone is not a loner who is failing a connection. They are a solitudinarian, a person who has succeeded at finding a profound source of nourishment and peace within their own mind. We also have to separate this from clinical social anxiety. Social anxiety is a fear-based avoidance. It's the intense, paralyzing fear of being judged, humiliated, or rejected. The person with social anxiety avoids social situations not because they prefer to be alone, but because they are terrified of the social interaction itself. The desire is often for connection, but the fear is too loud. The person we're talking about today is different. They might be socially skilled. They might have a great sense of humor. They might be a charismatic leader or a compassionate friend. They don't fear people. They just find people and performance of being around people to be incredibly, profoundly exhausting. This brings us to our first and perhaps most important psychological reason. Part 2. The cost of the mask, the persona. Why is being social so tiring? Why does it feel like work? The Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung gave us the perfect concept for this. He called it the persona. The persona is your social mask. It's the version of yourself that you have built to navigate the world successfully. It's your polite self, your professional self, your good student self, your helpful employee self, your fun friend self. It's not fake, necessarily. It's an adaptive tool. You need a persona to function in society. You can talk your CEO the same way you talk your dog. The problem is holding that mask up takes energy. For many people, this performance is a constant, low-level drain. But for people who are highly sensitive, highly empathetic, or highly introverted, the energy cost is massive. They're not just at the meeting. They're managing everyone's expectations. They're feeling the unspoken tension in the room. They're performing the role of capable employee, while their inner world is buzzing with 1,000 other thoughts and observations. The person who prefers to be alone is often someone who is just acutely aware of this cost. They feel the exhaustion of the persona more deeply than others. They're like a social battery that starts at 100% in the morning, and with every email, every bit of small talk, and every social performance ticks down 80%, 50%, 20%. By the end of the day, they're at 5%. And they know that the only way to recharge that battery is not sleep, not food, but silence. Solitude, for this person, is not an antisocial act. It is a radical, non-negotiable act of self-preservation. It is the only time they're allowed to finally put the mask down. When they close their front door, they're not hiding from the world. They're stopping the performance. They're finally allowed to just be. No expectations, no one to manage, no lines to remember. The preference for being alone is, in this sense, a sign of authenticity. It is the soul's deep, primal need to stop performing and simply exist. Part 3. The call of the self, the journey of individuation. So what happens in that silence? When you put the mask down, what you find? At first, it can be scary. This is the second deep reason why people prefer solitude. It's not just an escape from the persona. It is an entry into the self. Jung's entire life's work was built around a process he called individuation. Individuation is the lifelong journey of becoming who you truly are. It's the process of separating your true, authentic self from the noise of the collective, from what your parents, your friends, your culture, and your social media feed told you should be. You cannot do this work in a crowd. You cannot hear your own inner voice when you're constantly being deafened by the voices of others. Solitude is the laboratory of the self. When you are alone, all the distractions fall away. The likes, the shares, the promotions, the social approval, all of it vanishes. And you're left with you. In this silence, you finally start to hear the other parts of yourself, the parts you've been ignoring. This is where you meet your shadow. The shadow, as Jung defined, is the backpack of everything you've ever disowned about yourself. Your unacceptable anger, your shameful vulnerability, your lazy desires, your weird creative impulses. Most people are terrified of being alone because this is the first person they meet. The moment the TV is off and the phone is down, their own anxiety, their own unlived dreams, their own demons come knocking. And they will do anything to drown out that knock. More scrolling, more work, more busyness. They are addicted to noise. But the person who prefers to be alone, they are, consciously or not, on the journey of individuation. They're the person who is brave enough to sit in the silence and listen to the knock. They have learned that their shadow is not an enemy to be feared, but a messenger to be understood. In their solitude, they're not doing nothing. They're doing the most important work a human can do. They're journaling. They're thinking. They're processing that argument from yesterday. They are untangling their own feelings from their mother's feelings. They're discovering what they actually want, not what they've been told to want. People who prefer to be alone are often, at their core, spiritual and philosophical explorers. They are internauts, and their solitude is their spaceship. Part 4. The allergy to small talk. The craving for depth. This brings us to our third reason. People who prefer to be alone are often not antisocial. They are anti-bullshit. They have a deep, almost allergic reaction to small talk. Why? Because small talk is the official language of the persona. It is a social grooming ritual. It's the exchange of pre-approved scripts. How are you? I'm good, busy. How about that weather? Crazy, right? It is an exchange of masks. To the person who craves depth and authenticity, small talk is worse than silence. It is a lie. It feels like static. It feels like eating styrofoam when you're starving for a real meal. This person does not hate people. They crave connection, but they crave deep connection. They would rather have one 4-hour soul-bearing conversation with a trusted friend about their fears, their dreams, and the meaning of life, than attend a 4-hour party and have 40 5-minute conversations about their job and the traffic. And here is the crucial distinction. When deep connection is not available, they find solitude to be the superior option. They are not stuck up or snobs. They are just efficient with their limited social energy. They refuse to spend it on interactions that feel hollow. Their solitude is a filter. It protects their energy for the people and the conversations that actually matter. This is also why these individuals are often highly sensitive people, HSPs. This is a term from psychologist Dr. Elaine Aron. It's not a disorder. It's a biological trait. HSPs have a nervous system that processes information more deeply. They notice more. They feel more. The lights in the room are brighter to them. The noises are louder. The emotional undercurrents are stronger. For this person, a normal social gathering is a sensory and emotional blitzkrieg. They're being overwhelmed with data. Their need to be alone is not a preference. It's a biological necessity. It is the only way for their supercharged nervous system to destimulate, to process the mountains of data they've absorbed, and to return to a baseline of okay. Part 5. The busy inner world, the default mode network. So if they're drained by the outer world, what's happening in their inner world? Neuroscience gives us a beautiful clue. There is a brain circuit called the default mode network, DMN. You can think of this as your brain's inner world network. It's what activates when you're not focused on an external, goal-oriented task. It's the network that lights up when you daydream, when you reflect on your past, when you plan your future, when you think about yourself, and when you process your emotions. It is quite literally the biological hardware for yourself. Here's the theory. People who prefer to be alone may have a richer, more active, and more compelling default mode network. Their inner world is just a busier, more interesting place to be. When most people are doing nothing, they feel bored. Their DMN might be quiet. They need external, sensory input to feel engaged. But when a solitudinarian is doing nothing, they are wildly busy. Their DMN is on fire. They are replaying conversations, writing a story in their head, connecting disparate ideas, solving a complex problem, or having a rich emotional experience. Their inner world is louder than the outer world. This is also the source of creativity. Creativity is the act of connecting ideas that weren't previously connected. You cannot do this when you are in a loud, externally focused meeting. You do it in the shower. You do it on a long, solo walk. You do it while staring out a window. People who prefer solitude are not empty. They're in a constant state of processing and creating. They're not lonely. They're in deep, active conversation with their own default mode network. Their alone time is, in fact, their most productive time. Part 6. The reframe from loner to sage. Our modern, extroverted, hustle culture is the only culture in history that has pathologized solitude. For thousands of years, in almost every spiritual and philosophical tradition, the person who willingly went alone into the wilderness, the cave, the mountaintop, or the monastery was not seen as broken or antisocial. They were seen as powerful. They were the shaman, the mystic, the hermit, the prophet, the philosopher, the sage. It was universally understood that to gain true wisdom, to hear the voice of God, or the universe, or the muses, or your own deepest self, you had to shut out the noise of the marketplace. You had to silence the voices of the collective to find the one, true, inner voice. What if that pull you feel to be alone isn't social anxiety? What if it's a shamanic impulse? What if it's a philosophical impulse? What if your soul is not weird, but ancient? What if you're a part of a long, noble tradition of people who understand that you must go away to find a wisdom, so that you can come back and share it? This reframe is crucial. Your need for solitude is not a modern-day flaw. It is an ancient, sacred, and powerful calling. Part 7. Pacavia. When is it a problem? Now, we must be responsible. This entire video is a defense of healthy, chosen solitude. But we must also acknowledge that sometimes a preference for being alone is a mask for a deeper problem. How can you tell the difference? Ask yourself, is it recharging me or is it draining me? Healthy solitude, recharging me, choose it. You enjoy it. It fills your cup. After a day or two alone, you feel more resilient, more creative, and more yourself. You feel ready to re-engage with a few people you truly love. This is solitude. Unhealthy isolation, draining. You don't feel like you're choosing it. You feel like you're hiding and avoiding. You feel a deep, painful loneliness at the same time. You feel anhedonia, a lack of pleasure in anything, including your own company. You feel disconnected from everyone. If your solitude feels like a second list, if it feels like a gray fog and not a clear sanctuary, there may be a sign of depression, deep anxiety, or unresolved trauma. And that is a perfectly okay and very human thing to experience. And it is a sign that it may be time to reach out to a friend, a family member, or a therapist for help. That is an act of courage, not weakness. Part 8. How to honor your solitude without being a hermit. So, if you've identified that your need for solitude is healthy, how do you protect it in a world that doesn't understand it? 1. Reframe it. Battery versus antisocial. Stop using antisocial language. Start using battery language. You have to give your loved ones the script. Don't say, I don't want to go, I hate parties. Say, my social battery is at 10% after this week. I need to go home and recharge by myself tonight, so I can be fully present and enjoy my time with you tomorrow. This turns your rejection into an act of responsibility. 2. Schedule it. Proactive solitude. Don't wait until you are burnt out, irritable, and resentful. Don't wait until your shadow hijacks you. Self-sabotage. Look at your week. Schedule your solitude. Literally put in your calendar. Tuesday, July 10th p.m. Do not disturb. Recharge time. Treat it as seriously as a dentist appointment or a work meeting. It is that important. 3. Practice alone together. This is the brilliant middle ground. You could be in the same physical space as a loved one, but without the pressure of interaction. This is you reading a book on one end of the couch, while your partner watches a show with headphones on the other. It's going to coffee shop, to work, or read alone, but being surrounded by the quiet, anonymous hum of other people. This gives you a feeling of connection without the drain of performance. Conclusion: the mark of a deep world. If your solitude recharges you, if you're the person who craves that silence, who needs that space to breathe, who enjoys the company of your own mind, then I want to leave you with this. You're not broken. You're not weird. You're not antisocial. Your preference for solitude is not a bug in your system. It is a feature. It is a sign that you are a deeply sensitive person who pays the high price of the persona and must recharge. It is a sign that you are an authentic person who refuses to waste your precious energy on interactions that feel hollow. It is a sign that you have a rich inner life, and your brain is busy with the creative, productive work of your default mode network. And it is the sign of a courageous soul, one who is part of a long, ancient tradition of sages who know you must go inward to find the truth. You're the person who knows that a rich, inner world is more valuable than a loud, outer one. So, the next time you joyfully cancel those plans, the next time you lock your door and take that deep, releasing breath, do not for 1 second feel guilty or weird. You're an explorer, and you're simply finally home. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. If this conversation resonated with you, if you felt seen in this video, please hit that like button and be sure to subscribe for more deep dives just like this one. And now, for our community, go down to the comments and let me know. What is the biggest myth you've heard about people who like to be alone? Or, if you are this person, what is the one thing you wish other people understood about you? Let's share our stories. Be kind to yourself, be kind to each other, and I will see you in the next one.